Hey everyone, we're talking about the Superfly today, but I forgot to mention this in the intro. This was sent for free from BBBarfly. They did not pay me, they did not tell me what to say, they did not have any influence in this video whatsoever. I forgot to mention it. I usually like to mention stuff like that in my follow-up videos since it's kind of my refined thoughts. So there you go, sent for free. No changing of my opinions, no money changed hands or anything like that. They just sent me this to check out on Blade Bias. So there's that. Without further ado, get back into the video, you goober. See you later. Guru greetings, everyone. Welcome back to Blade Bias. It is time to talk about my week with the Firefly, because this has been an extremely enjoyable week. And Barfly has impressed me in a way that, man, I don't know. I've been impressed with companies in the past, don't get me wrong. But Barfly has just reinforced that they are a balisong company that I don't think gets enough love. So, the Superfly. What's good? What's bad? Well, if you remember in the last video, I complained a little bit about the overall comfort of the Firefly, which I didn't even complain that much, I don't think. I mentioned that it was, excuse me, I mentioned that it was a bit uncomfortable on chaplains, although I would wait and see to the follow-up video how that would progress. Unfortunately, in the hours after that video, I found myself really having issues with the chaplain. It spawned this crazy callus and blister on my finger from doing a clip for my story, and it was just overall really uncomfortable. But I was enjoying flipping it so much that I was like, you know what, that's fine. I'm not really too worried about it. I'll keep flipping it for the week video. The next day, I'm not even kidding when I say the next day, I wake up to a message from BBBarfly saying, hey, we made this change to the blade because you said it was uncomfortable. I have a new one being sent to you in the mail. Here's the tracking info. Which, if you don't know the history of Barfly, this is not the first time that they've done this. They did this for the Superfly, or pardon me, for the oh my gosh. BBBarfly, I'm so sorry. Your lineup makes complete sense to me. I just can never remember to say. I can never manage to say the one that I mean when I want to. The Firefly V2, Brandon and Will reviewed, and they had a similar issue where they didn't think they were the most comfortable chapliners in the world, and BBBarfly fixed it like within the week and sent them a new one, which was just crazy. And it's crazy that they would do that. But you might be thinking, oh, hey, they only do that because you guys are creators in the community with larger audiences. No, because they did that when the Firefly V2 first came out. They showed off the new design and everyone was like, hey, this needs jimping. So they gave it jimping. And then everyone was like, hey, this needs lines like up here so that there's grip up there. And they added that within like a week. It was amazing. And I'm blown away, really, that Barfly took the time to listen to a minor complaint that I had in a first impressions video and decided to fix it. So what was the fix that they actually made? Well, it was right here. You can notice that the tang right here, not the tang, the spine of the blade goes into the Zen cup at a fairly sharp angle. And that's what was causing me discomfort. I have small fingers, so my finger was rubbing against that throughout the whole chaplain. It was really uncomfortable. Became a big problem, especially a lot of wear on my finger that I didn't really like. Now they have reduced that angle a little bit. So this is a more gradual angle down into the Zen cup, which results in a much more comfortable chaplain, especially for a balisong that weighs 4.5 ounces. So the Superfly jumped from a balisong that I was impressed by and I liked, but wasn't sure if I was going to be flipping a lot in the long term, to literally one of my main flippers for the week. I have the stand over here that I mentioned that I did in the last few Blade Biases ago, that I keep my 5 main flippers, and the Superfly has been sitting here the entire time in that 5th slot, and I've been really enjoying it. A return to 4.5 ounces has been nice. I usually prefer like 3.8 to 4 ounce balisongs, and that is still the case. The Superfly has not changed anything for me. But the Superfly is incredible in the sense that it has made me appreciate kind of heavier balisongs again. And I understand 4.5 ounces isn't the most heavy in the world. I have my Arctic, which weighs the same weight, but this is like one of the first times I've had a Balisong that weighs that much that flips this good. The Arctic has a pretty heavy handle bias, which means that I don't flip it as much as I really should. With this, I flip it all the time. The Super CUDA, as they call it, the bar CUDA blade is amazing. The handles are amazing. A little bit rough inside here. If you run your finger along here, you'll really feel the sharpness of those circles, but it's not a big deal since your finger doesn't go in there much anyway. It's mostly just gripping onto this little cutout on the outside. These circles feel much better. Everything around here is amazing. And oh wait, you might notice there's no weights anymore. So I did a stream where I replaced the blade and we checked it out. But what I also did is I went and I tried all of the weight options. There's 2 slots for the weights in each blade or each handle. One right here, one right here. Initially, I had them right here. That's what it was sent to me like. So I moved them down here, and that made this thing far more standard of a flipper. It felt more outer weighted, felt similar to something like, oh, I don't know, maybe like a Prisma, although that's probably a bad comparison to make. It didn't flip much like a Prisma at all. It just had that outer weighted balance, you know, a lot of tip weight, because look at the blade. The blade is super thin down here, and it thickens out, so a lot of the weight is up here. So it brought it to a much more standard, at least in my collection, kind of balance. With the weight at the end instead of up here, it felt far more standard. Felt far more normal for my collection. Not like objectively standard or anything like that. Just standard in my collection, since a lot of my Balisongs are outer weighted like that. But the big surprise came when someone, as a joke, told me to take out all of the weights. And as you can see, I ended up liking that so much that that is now my main balance profile. It still carries enough momentum somehow with this little, it's literally a pivot. Like there's no spacers or anything here. It somehow carries enough momentum and enough weight in the end of the handles to still flip really, really good. But it almost gives it a little bit of blade bias. And I freaking love that. I love how this thing flips with no weights. It's a little goofy to get used to with chaplains. It does lose a little stickiness in chaplains, but as you can see, it's not much. And it just flips. It flips so agilely. Is that a word? I don't know. I don't care. It's so agile. And it rips. It's really nice. And I ended up keeping it, and I did not expect that. I also tried all of the weights in, which is your more standard BBBarfly flipping experience. You have a lot of weight at the end of the handles, but it still flips overall fine. So there really is something to love for everyone here. All of the weights provide a fairly small difference, but it's one that makes a bigger difference than I think you would expect, especially if you're a bit more knowledgeable about how weight affects Balisongs, like I think that I am myself. So I personally was able to feel the difference and pick my favorite, which I think you would be able to too. Some people will like all weights in. Some people will like all weights out. Some people will just like one in the upper slot. Some people will like one in the lower slot. It really does depend on your preferences. Now, the one thing that I will say is that the weights, when you put them in and when you take them out, mine were at least Loctited in, which was interesting. Considering they're held together by the handles, I didn't really see the point of that. So I swapped the weights out to something that wasn't covered in Loctite. And it turns out that the weights do rattle around a bit when you put them in, which isn't the biggest deal in the world. I'm not going to lose my mind over that. It's just a small, tiny bit of rattle. So if you're someone who doesn't like your Balisong sounding like that, you might want to put a piece of, I've heard people say like tiny bit of cotton or a tiny bit of like tissue paper or something. Just a very thin thing inside the little hole that the weight goes into to stop that rattle. Or you could even just use the weights that came installed if they were Loctited, because I would assume that little bit of Loctite that they put on there just kind of stabilizes everything. Because Loctite's a little bit more malleable when it's hard. So it squeezes down and it doesn't rattle. I didn't confirm that theory by putting the original weights back in it, but that is my theory that I would say right now. So, how does a Firefly flip? Well, it's a bit more standard old school. It's a little bit more handle biased, or at least it can be. That's the thing with adjustable balances. You can't really talk about it in one way. But the default way that I got it had a little bit of handle bias to it while still maintaining enough blade weight to fan, choker fan, do all of that perfectly. And also Chaplin rollovers feel really, really good. Z chokers in particular feel amazing on this thing. And it just, the way that this thing is able to feel light and agile despite being one of the heaviest balisongs in my collection is just crazy. I have nothing but respect for the Superfly. Now, it does feel more standard than I'm used to feeling for Barfly. Barfly is a very unique balisong maker, and I love them for that. So I was sort of expecting if they're more standard, maybe they won't flip as well. And I think this carries enough of the Barfly charm, the Barfly lineage, to be interesting while still being probably one of the most competitive flippers that I've felt from them, in the sense that it's very standard. It does what you want it to do. There's not much weirdness. And I think most people who flip this thing would be able to perform very well with it, which isn't the case for something like the Firefly. It's big, it's chunky, it has a weird balance. Not everyone might be able to flip that perfectly, but I love them for that because they still flip good while carrying a ton of personality. This, you trade some of that personality for consistency, and I think that is a fine trade to make as long as some of that personality remains. And with all the weights in especially, you can get back to that feeling of, oh, this is a BBBarfly, you know? So overall, I would say that the Superfly is sort of creeping up my list of favorite trainers right now. I've been flipping it more than anything else in my collection the past week, besides maybe my Kraken trainer and my Prisma Pro, but I've been really, really enjoying it. It's got enough grip. It's designed really, really well. It feels solid. The tolerances are great. I was not expecting... Barfly, to their credit, sent me tuned bushings for this blade, which is just amazing. You know, you would kind of expect, oh, I'll just send you a new blade and then you can do whatever. Which is what happened with my... That's what happened with my comb blade for the Orion. You just get a blade. And then I think they send you some, like, fuck all oversized bushings or something like that, and you're just supposed to do what you want with that. Which isn't a bad deal. Like, that's how you keep the cost down. But to send tuned bushings out like that was really, really cool. Thank you, BBBarfly, for that. I really appreciate it. This thing was sent for free from BBBarfly, but they did not pay me or tell me what to say in any way. And I'm going to use that to tell you to go check out their sale, which this is being uploaded tomorrow. Tomorrow is the 14th. The sale ends tomorrow when you're watching this. This is one of the better sales I've seen in the community. You can get a Firefly V2 for $112, I believe. You can get a Superfly for $240, which is insane to me. That's about the price of a Kraken trainer for adjustable balance, extra hardware, case, bottle opener, all of this stuff. I highly recommend it. I think the Superfly is amazing, and I recommend it wholeheartedly. Thank you again to BBBarfly for sending this thing out. I really appreciate it, and I am going to love flipping this thing for many, many months to come. But that's going to do it for this video. I'm going to go have a conversation with someone. Maybe a podcast style conversation. Maybe a podcast style situation. Who knows? Anyway, thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.